All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's completely changing how we think about our own health. We're tossing out some old ideas, the body is this simple machine, and stepping into a whole new way of looking at things. It's a lot more dynamic, a lot more complex. So yeah, let's get right into it.
So it really all boils down to this one kind of fascinating question. What could a healthy heart, a thriving forest, and even the climate of our whole planet possibly have in common? I mean, they sound totally different, right? Well, the answer points to this really radical new way of seeing the world. And honestly, it might just change how you think about, well, pretty much everything.
Okay, so before we can really grasp this new idea, we got to take a step back and look at where we came from. For hundreds of years, science was pretty much dominated by one single, incredibly powerful idea, that the world, the universe, everything is basically just a predictable machine.
Yeah, this is the classic view, the Newtonian clockwork universe. The thinking goes like this. If you can just understand all the little bits and pieces, the gears, the springs, all the components, then you can perfectly predict what the whole machine is going to do. It means you can write an equation for it, solve that equation, and boom, you know its past, you know its future. Super predictable.
Now, this incredibly powerful idea didn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? It was built up piece by piece over centuries. You start with the ancient Greeks saying, hey, we can use reason to understand the world. Then that logic gets codified into the strict language of math. After that, we get experimental science, where we actually test our ideas against reality. And all of that comes together in this grand synthesis, Newtonian physics.
And we have to be super clear here. This model works. I mean, it is stunningly successful. This is the science that took us to the moon. We could literally calculate the flight path of a rocket with unbelievable precision. It gave us this amazing feeling of control, of predictability. But, and this is a big but, what happens when we try to use that same mechanical lens to look at life itself?
And this is exactly where that beautiful, predictable clockwork model starts to wobble. Because when we look at living things, we run into this puzzle. A puzzle that the old science just doesn't have the pieces for.
So here's the fundamental split. Think about it. A machine is predictable. It's controlled from the top down. Someone designed it, someone built it. But a living system, totally different. It's adaptive. Its behavior kinda emerges from the bottom up. There's no single boss, no central command telling all the parts what to do. Life is constantly organizing itself.
So that brings up a really deep question. If you want to understand what life is, what scale do you even look at? Is it happening in our cells, in our organs, in us as a whole person, or maybe even in our communities? The crazy thing is, the answer is yes to all of them. Life isn't just happening at one level. It's a phenomenon that crosses all of these scales, from the tiniest microbe to the whole planet. And to understand that, you need a totally new kind of science.
And that is what brings us to this brand new framework for understanding life. So welcome to the world of complexity science, and its really revolutionary ideas about what it actually means to be healthy.
So what is complexity, anyway? Well, in a nutshell, it's the science of systems where you have tons of individual parts all interacting with each other. And out of those simple interactions, these large-scale behaviors and patterns just emerge. Patterns you could never, ever predict by just looking at one part in isolation. Think of a flock of starlings swirling in the sky, or a colony of ants building a nest. There's no leader shouting orders. It's just simple rules creating this incredibly complex, almost intelligent, collective behavior.
And right at the heart of complexity is this amazing concept called criticality. The best way to think about it is like a sweet spot, or a Goldilocks zone for any living system. It's this perfect, creative, resilient balance, poised right on the knife's edge between being too rigid and orderly and being complete, total chaos. And it's on that edge, that's where life thrives.
Let's make this real. Think about your own heartbeat. You might think a healthy heart is like a perfect metronome, right? Tick-tock, tick-tock, super steady. But it's not. That would be way too rigid. The truth is, the tiny little fluctuations between each beat, the stuff that might just look like random noise, they aren't random at all. They actually follow a very specific, complex pattern. And that pattern is the signature of a system at criticality. It means your heart is flexible, it's adaptive, and it's resilient, ready for anything life throws at it.
Okay, this leads us to the next huge idea, anti-fragility. We usually think the opposite of something fragile is something robust or strong, right? Something that can take a hit. But living systems go a step beyond that. They are anti-fragile. This means they don't just resist shocks and stresses, they actually benefit from them. They get stronger. Think about it. It's just like lifting weights. The stress on your muscles is literally what makes them grow back stronger. That's anti-fragility in action.
All right, so let's take these two powerful ideas, criticality and anti-fragility, and apply them. Let's look at the ecosystems both inside of us and all around us. And you'll see the implications are, well, they're pretty profound.
Okay, first, let's just consider the life inside you. And I'm not talking about your human cells. I'm talking about the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that are living on you and in you right now. How many? The number is just staggering, something like 100 trillion. They actually outnumber your own cells. And here's the kicker. Their health is your health.
So what does that really mean? It means you are not an individual. Not really. You're what scientists call a holobiont. Basically, a walking, talking, thinking ecosystem. So your health isn't just about your organs or your DNA. It's about the health and the balance of this entire microbial community that you carry around with you every single second of your life.
And you know what? Our modern world has a huge impact on this inner world of ours. Study after study shows that people living in more traditional, rural lifestyles tend to have incredibly high microbial diversity. But in our urban, industrialized world, that diversity plummets. We're losing these species. And what happens when you lose diversity in the ecosystem? It becomes less resilient, less adaptive, it becomes more fragile.
So let's just put this all together. Let's look at the old view versus this new view of health. The old machine-based view said health was just the absence of disease. It was a static state. You wanted to be robust. But this new view, the complexity view, says no. Health is a dynamic process. It's about finding that balance between order and chaos. That's criticality. And it's not just about being robust. It's about having the ability to actually get stronger from stress. And that's anti-fragility.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big and maybe even slightly uncomfortable question to think about. Our modern world is built for convenience, for stability, for getting rid of all the little stressors. But if real health, deep health, depends on challenge and variability, if it depends on criticality and anti-fragility, are we, in our search for an easy life, accidentally engineering the resilience right out of ourselves? Are we making ourselves more fragile? That's definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in to The Explainer.